Welcome to the Winging It Travel podcast with me, James Hammond. Every Monday, I'll be joined by guests to talk about their travel stories, travel tips, backpacking advice, and so much more. Right now, I'm taking the podcast on the road travelling with me. So tune in every week for short-form episodes detailing all my travels alongside my Monday guest episode. Are you a backpacker, gap year student, or simply someone who loves to travel? Then this is the podcast for you, designed to inspire you to travel. There'll be stories to tell, tips to share, and experiences to inspire. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the road trip across Canada. If you're here for the first time, I'm currently on a road trip in our small campervan, starting from Vancouver Island and going east all the way, and then hopefully back round via the US to Vancouver. Today we're going to cover Toronto, which we're there for 5 days, and then finish off with a couple of days seeing Ted Cragg, a previous podcast guest, and the last day from going from his to New Brunswick, and we'll stop there for this episode. So carrying on from the last episode, we're in Montreal finishing off with Niagara Falls with my friend Tom, and in this episode we're going to be with Tom for a few days checking out some stuff in Toronto. First off, the next day in Toronto we had planned for a sightseeing day, and we're going to be hanging around financial district, if you like, of Toronto, and then heading towards the Kensington Market area to meet another travel podcaster who's been a previous guest on this podcast. This day, unfortunately, started with rain, so we did get the metro into town, not too early this time, but fairly early, 8:30ish, and arrived at Dean & Coffee in the city centre, pouring down with rain. And we're meeting our friends Tom and Alex again for a little morning of sightseeing in Toronto. Fantastic coffee, great croissant. I nearly had two, but I just thought budget-wise, let's not do that. And we planned the day ahead. We're going to walk all the way down to the lakefront. And on the way, the weather changed and it started to get a bit sunny, a bit warmer. The outfit that we had, raincoat, trousers, was actually too warm in the end, needed shorts. So it kind of switched in a few hours. The lake view is fantastic. You have to go and check out the views left and right. And this carries on for years as you walk down the lakefront from maybe CBD and you carry on eastwards. After a few coffees, we walked to the Toronto Music Gardens, just a random garden we found along the front. You can walk on a boardwalk along the front, and there's plenty of parks to hang out in, but we hung out at this one. Some sort of TikTok group and a dance in the corner. They've got the music on the go, camera on the go, doing some sort of routine. Could be famous, no idea. Hung out there. Then Tom and Alex had to go back for lunch and go to their second part of their wedding that they're seeing. For us, we're going to the Kensington Market area and getting the streetcar up to Kensington Market, and we're going to the Viet Coffee place to meet Erin Hyne from Pina Travels, which is her blog, and she is also the host of her travel podcast called the Curious Tourism Responsible Travel Podcast. So I implore you to check out her podcast. They explore all the areas within travel about what makes travel better for people and travel itself. Covers an array of subjects. If you search for Winging It Travel Podcast in Spotify or Google or Apple, whatever, and put Erin Hyne, you'll see her pop up for our episode. A great chat, talked all about her own travels, her podcast, and what's coming in the future, doing great things. Went to meet her for a little tour that she planned for her local area. It's around Kensington Market. Went to a few cafes. First off, Viet Coffee is obviously a Vietnamese-based coffee place that we met at. I had a banh mi actually for lunch. Like $10. I think it's chicken, lemongrass, stuff like that. Real nice. After Viet Coffee, we went to Voodoo Child Espresso Bar. Obviously, I would think, based on Jimi Hendrix's song, Voodoo Child. I'm not sure if it actually is. It's a bit of a coincidence if the name is the same and it's not based on that. But I had a fantastic little espresso here, bit of sugar. Don't tell the trendy coffee podcasts, people who listen on the other YouTube channel. Decent price, decent location. Then we walked down Kensington Market Street to another bar for a drink. It's pretty hot this day at this point. I think those two guys got an alcoholic drink. I got an orange juice from memory. And this place was called the Paminar Bar. But honestly, if you walk down Kensington Market, you can see so many options available left and right. Just need to go down there, check it out, hang out for a day. And we did do that coming up in the next couple of days. But thanks to Erin for showing us around. I think it's a bit of a pitch for Toronto for us to maybe move there next year. And I definitely love the area. It's nice to get out of the CBD, check out a neighbourhood, all the local cafes, see what's going on. And I did love the vibe, to be fair. So thanks, Erin, for that. So after that, we went back to the Airbnb And we thought, no dramas, dinner, showered up. But then something happened at this Airbnb which is a bit weird. About 1:30am, sound asleep. You can kind of hear the front door. But bear in mind, the quiet time in this place has been stated, I think after 8 or 9pm, one of those two times. So well into the night, the door smashes open. Loud voices in Spanish, walking up the stairs. They take a left towards our room. And then it's clear they're getting checked in to the bedroom next to us. But this felt like almost a bit of a showing around. Here's the toilet, here's the bedroom, here's the kitchen. I was like, what the hell is going on? Talking at the top of their voice at 1:30am. Bearing in mind, there's probably other guests on our floor, probably people living downstairs or upstairs. Just a bit shocked at this. And then, because I explained in the last episode, if you check that out, we've got this weird policy of you can lock doors inside of our toilet to each door, to each room. He started locking our doors, showing him how to use it. And it's like, oh, is this guy coming in? A real weird experience. A bit freaked out, shaking the door, speaking real loudly. I get that he's checking in, but it's self-checking anyway. We checked in by ourselves. So a real strange scenario. Loud, a bit weird, thought he was going to come in. Didn't feel particularly safe at that point either. Messaged the Airbnb host straight away. And the person who controls at that point in time that message did not know what was going on, but seemed to change their tune a bit later on. So a bit of a weird scenario. Have kind of thought about whether reporting that on the booking.com reviews. Haven't done it yet, but I will think about it. But a strange end to the night. The next day was brilliant for weather. We can walk around, sunny day. Kicked off the morning with a Moretti Cafe coffee near the CN Tower. Quite trendy, Italian, great cup. You'll see it here. And then we moved to Earl's for a classic Sunday happy hour brunch. They have happy hour between 10 and 11 or 11 to 12, depending on what time they open. But basically it's the first hour of their opening day on a Sunday. And they have a selection of brunches that are reduced in price. Met Tom and Alex there for brunch. Orange juice brunch, loved it. Then we walked to another coffee place near the Rogers Arena where the Blue Jays are having a game, and met another friend called Madz. We're actually going to stay with Madz the 2 nights after the Airbnb. Met for a coffee. She obviously met Tom and Alex as well. They were going to the baseball game to watch the Blue Jays. You won't catch me watching them. Baseball was boring. You'd fall asleep, but they thoroughly enjoyed the experience. And we carried on sightseeing for the rest of our day. First off, we thought we'd walk to the distillery area. And obviously this is an area where old buildings exist and they've all been converted into shops, markets. There's a little stage outside for jazz, chairs everywhere so you can sit, have a Coke or a coffee or watch the music. We kind of just chilled out, enjoyed the weather and hung out around the area. Nice area. I'm not sure whether you can live there, but definitely a lot of visitors, a lot of tourists. But thoroughly enjoyed the options of coffee and cake and the jazz music in the background. So then we made our way back into the CBD via the lakefront, but we kind of started a bit further west this time, worked our way in via a city beach, and then met Tom to say goodbye because he was leaving to go to Calgary the next day. So we had a bit of a goodbye hug, and that was the end of the day really. Sad to see Tom go. Great to have a few days with him, checking out Toronto, new city for us as well. End of the day, last night in the Airbnb, get me out of there. This is a Patreon shout out to Laura from the Swamp Soup Stickers, who has contributed £5 to the podcast on my Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. Really appreciate it, and it helps the podcast to keep going in the future. If you're interested, head to the show notes where you'll find a link to my Patreon. The website address is patreon.com/Winging It Travel Podcast. For £5 English, you will receive some trendy stickers from myself in the post, a shout out on each episode, and also my digital travel planner by email. Thank you for your support. Next morning, we are going to make our way to Madz place, which is situated roughly in the little area of Little Italy, or that is next to Kensington Market. So made our way in the car and drove for about 30 minutes. Roadworks galore, one-way systems. Driving in Toronto isn't fun. I would advise probably just getting the metro, maybe even the bus, because there seems to be roadworks everywhere. It's so annoying. Made our way, found Madz place, dropped the stuff off. Now parking anywhere in town that's not out in the suburbs is going to be either permit based or you have to pay for it. We managed to find a Green Pea parking spot for roughly $18 for 24 hours, including the night. Because we left 2 nights, we parked there and paid up front for that. I mean, there's no other option. I do think they probably check that pretty regularly on a weekday. It's an easy money for them, isn't it? Parked up, then made our way via walking to a trendy establishment called the Morning Parade. These guys, super trendy inside, great vibe, people doing work, lots of space, great coffee, and a fantastic croissant. Loved it. That was so good. I actually want to have another one. Need to control myself a little bit. In the future, I will go there and get another croissant because that was top notch. Then we walked down the trendy street called Ossington Avenue. Clearly, this is independent shops, restaurants, cafes, bars. Leafy, no chains. Very nice to walk down, and an area that I would want to check out in the future. They have a mural there of Jimi Hendrix. Always great to see. I think there may even be a Jimmy's Coffee down there too. But this street is very trendy for either brunch or in the evening. And when you walk around the other part of the area, you can see it's just a different type of clientele, different type of feel. Thoroughly enjoyed that. We had met Erin in Kensington Market, but not really seen it. So on this day, we walked back to Kensington Market and checked out its entirety. I think Erin went to a wool shop. We didn't actually go in anywhere, apart from Jimmy's Coffee. I think we went in there just because it's Jimmy's Coffee, and I thought it'd be more Jimi Hendrix based. It wasn't that much really. But the coffee was okay, and they have a few dotting about the city centre and the same area. After that, we just kind of felt a bit tired, walking around a lot of sightseeing, made our way back to Madz house and chilled out with her because obviously she works during the day. Got to catch up with her properly in the evening. Nice to have a bit of a homely feel again. Sofa, TV, kitchen, and we cooked dinner for Madz and had a classic spag bowl. As I said before, pretty knackered. So the next day we chilled out a little bit, renewed the parking on Green P, but went to Sondra Cafe, another trendy establishment. A bit warm in there. Felt maybe it's just humid that day, not really sure. The coffee was fantastic. Nice little place, lots of little meetings going on, people doing work, so obviously it's a trendy place to hang out. And then we went to another establishment for brunch called Found Coffee. These guys are an Australian-based cafe, so we had avocado on toast, and I had a poached egg on top. Fantastic. About $12 to $14 you're forking out there. Heard some Aussie voices in the cafe. It's obviously very popular, and it's a nice little location, very walkable. I think it's quite easy to park there as well. It seemed to be a fair road with a lot of spaces. Just love the vibe, love the food, love the coffee. Got to check those guys out. And for the rest of the time, we're just doing stuff for our podcast, knitting and stuff, and just chilling out. Overall, that was Toronto. So 5 days there. I feel like we checked out the CBD, the financial district, the Kensington Market, Little Italy, North York's where we stayed initially. We didn't really check out the area. It's quite far out of town, that, even though the subway is right next to the Airbnb. So it's about a 5-minute walk outside the Airbnb. You get to the subway and I go straight into downtown. That was the one upside of the Airbnb. That was an interesting experience. The room was pretty comfortable, but it's just a bit weird what happened with the bathroom door. So it kind of left a bit of a bad feeling there. But great parking nearby, $250 all day, free in a weekend, as I said in the last podcast episode. Great links into Toronto. I wouldn't really recommend it just based on what happened, but it was comfortable enough. Enjoyed the vibe of Toronto. It's definitely near the top of the list to go to next. I like the financial district. I like Kensington Market. I like that area. I like the cafe options. I like the waterfront by the lake. That does help. Not the sea, but it does help. And yeah, thanks to Tom for making it a fun few days in Niagara Falls and Toronto. And thanks to Erin for showing us around, and Madz for letting us stay in her little apartment. I'm going to finish the episode with kind of 2 admin days, really. They're driving days. They're essentially driving from Toronto to in between Montreal and Quebec City. Not going to say where, because obviously that's where Ted Cragg live. And that's where I went to go and see Ted Cragg, a previous guest on the podcast last year. We met him and Emily, his wife, and his kids. And they've got a fantastic house, and he's got a new podcast studio. So we made a bit of a pact to get an episode recorded, which we did, which you can see this week. We met for the first time in person. Obviously we met on Zoom before. They cooked us dinner, put us up downstairs in the rec room. Very comfortable. It was an alright drive. The rain was coming. About 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours in total. The only drama was on the way, the engine light came on. It wasn't red, it was orange and not flashing, so we're not sure what that was. I initially thought it was an oil change needed, because it's definitely due. So on the way, about an hour outside of Toronto, we got to a garage and got an oil change done. All the checks were done, tyre pressure, etc. Stayed on. So okay, no worries. We'll make it to Ted's, and Ted's got a little machine, plugs it in, gets a code. We got the code out, O2 sensor. We weren't really sure how serious that was. Not that serious in hindsight in terms of people we've spoken to in Google, and it hasn't come on since. So that was a little bit of drama. Very comfortable night at Ted's. Thanks for letting us stay. And we recorded next day an episode in the morning, which you can hear on the Wing and Child podcast audio version. Unfortunately, it wasn't videoed, otherwise I'll put it up on the YouTube channel. And then day 47, the last day of this podcast episode, we're making our way into New Brunswick. Again, it's another 6-hour drive. Said goodbye to Ted and Emily and their kids. Solid 6-hour drive, no real dramas, no real things to really talk about. Stopped off for lunch at Riviere de Loup. I think we had a Macca's, nothing really to talk about there. About halfway, got into New Brunswick, and the only thing we saw on the way was the longest covered bridge in the world at Heartland, which is pretty much the last hour or so of our drive. We left at 11 a.m, probably got to there about 6. Then we decided where to go and stay for the night. It's definitely worth checking out this bridge. It's obviously a bit of a gimmick, or a road that goes through a bridge and it's covered and it's long. Yeah, decent. We saw a similar thing in Liechtenstein going across to Switzerland, and I thought that was quite long, but this was obviously longer. They've got stats and figures and maps and graphs, everything proclaiming it's the longest one in the world. I would recommend Heartland to go and see it. The actual initial aim was to go and see the biggest axe in the world, but we didn't make it there, unfortunately. Drove for another hour, and we stayed at a truck stop for a night, which is a classic thing that we do if you want a free night, because they've got showers, petrol station, toilets, and pretty good restaurant, cafe or shop to get some supplies in. And that is New Brunswick, entering in there for another new province and the end of this podcast episode. Bit of city, bit of meeting new people, couple of travel podcasters in this one. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe for my YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers. Hey, yeah, just a quick one. I just want to say there are many ways to support this podcast. You can buy me a coffee and help support the podcast with $5. Or you can go to my merch store with the affiliate link with TeePublic, where there's plenty of merch available to buy, such as t-shirts, jumpers, hoodies, and also some children's clothing. Thirdly, which is free, you can also rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or Good Pods. Also, you can find me on social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. Simply just search for Winging It Travel Podcast, and you'll find me displaying all my social media content for travelling, podcast, and other stuff. Thank you.